Welcome to part 2 of this quick tutorial on Open Data Web Services for Oracle BPM. So in part 1 we showed you the working application. So in this segment we're going to drill down into how we actually do the forms and data integration using the Open-XDX tools. The obligatory disclaimer notice and safe harbor statement. And now the tutorial overview. I'm going to recap the concepts and approach and then show how we build the new service for the particular patient medical history query, and then completing and testing those data services, creating the XSD schema for that query web service. And so that will be the first part. And then the second part, we're going to switch, as it were, and show you using the JDeveloper and Oracle BPM form tools. So the first part's going to be in Open-XDX, and the second part in the toolset. And then at the end, we'll provide you with a summary and resources of links and so on. So getting started here, the conceptual view, of course, is the traditional 4 steps. You have to design and engineer, then test what you've built, deploy that, and then deliver it to the target environment. And of course, what's different about what we're doing here is we're really looking to minimize the amount of coding, making it as code-free as possible, drag and drop, visual approach. And where you do need to do some Java coding, we're providing you pre-built templates and pieces of Java code that you can simply quickly tailor to your particular application needs. So the first part in the design, we have the CAM editor, the visual editor. Integrated into that is the SQL browser, so you can drag and drop the components that you need, create the XML, and Open-XDX can then run that exchange where you're going to the SQL database, creating the web service, delivering the XML content, and it's essentially doing all that for you code-free. You just simply tell it what tables and what XML you want done. And then, of course, we're going to integrate that into BPM. So once you've generated the data, you can actually display it in the form. And then that deploys. So we're going to show you how to actually integrate that into the deployment environment for BPM, and then be able to deliver that as a solution. So if we look at Open-XDX itself, conceptually what it's doing. So you have your existing information databases, your SQL databases, and you're going to connect to those via JDBC. And the Open-XDX then is a Java engine that is going to make those connections for you, grab the data that you need, configure it as XML or JSON, and then of course deliver it via a web service or a RESTful interface. And to control all this, you have the template. And inside the template you have the structure of the content that we're going to use. So the XML structure, or the equivalent in JSON, some rules about what's optional, what's repeatable, what's a date, what's a number. Then the specific DB mappings. This field in the XML comes from this table and this column in the database. And you can configure parameters. So you can say, I don't want the entire data set from the database. I only want this one particular set of records for this patient ID number. So we're going to see how all this works. And of course our focus is on building a new service for the patient medical history query. So first step is to go into the visual development environment, create an empty XML structure in the viewer, and we're going to label it, obviously, as you can see here, patient report. And then in the right hand window, what we've done is we've connected to the database so you can see the actual database table and columns. You set the development environment to the designer mode in the SQL viewer, and then simply go ahead, and on the next slide you can see you're going to drag and drop the table over into the empty XML, and what's going to happen is that the tool will create XML for each of those columns within the table that you've dragged over. And you can see when it does that, it follows the XML naming convention, camel case, and does some smart things, like if it's a date but it doesn't say that in the name, it'll put that in there, and so on and so forth. And this is following the NIEM naming and design rules. So once you've built that, then you're going to store that into the template with all the various rules that we were saying before, the mappings, the structure, and the rules, and any parameters that you may be using. And so we're going to walk you through doing this. And then, of course, once you've got it set up, you can go ahead right in the visual environment and test this. If you've added a filter, it will it'll restrict the result set down to whatever that parameter is filtering. And then you can verify that the service is operating how you need it with the content and so forth. So that's a quick introduction, and now we're going to actually do the demonstration here. So you can see on the right here, part 1, we have the workbench. So whether it's MySQL or SQL Workbench, you can connect to your Oracle database, view the content, and then in the designer you're going to have the equivalent of that, and then generate the XML. And so that's what we're going to demonstrate now.
In this tutorial we are going to demonstrate how to create a simple XML exchange based on SQL database tables. The main tool for this part of the tutorial is a CAM editor. And the CAM editor provides a simple way of creating XML exchanges. First, we are going to create a new template. Let's use appropriate name for the root element, like patient records. The editor will prompt to save templates, so let's save it. So now we have a brand new empty structure on the left side of the editor. The next step would be to establish a database connection to our database. This is one-time procedure, and once connection is configured, it will be preserved within the editor and can be reused in the future. So let's open Tools, Manage Database Connection Wizard. Click the Add button. So right now we can select different type of data sources. The CAM editor has JDBC drivers for Oracle database and MySQL database, but also support generic JDBC connections, where you can provide custom JDBC drivers for your databases, and what you have to do, just specify as connection URL and location of the jar file. For this demo, we're going to work with Oracle database. Let's close this wizard dialog. Now we are ready to get connected to the database. So let's switch our right panel to Database Browser tab, and there is a Connect to Database button. Let's click on this button, and what we have to do, we need to select our connection information from the drop-down list, click OK, enter password for the user. Now we are connected to the database, and we can see all available schemas, and inside of the schema we can see the tables and column details. In most cases, for existing structures, we can just map individual database columns into structure entities. But in this particular case, we are going to switch into designer mode, and we're going to replicate the table information inside of our XML. What we have to do, we just have to drag and drop table inside of our structure, and this simple operation will create matching XML nodes with NIEM compliant names and database mapping information in the annotations. Database mapping annotations are very important. The Open-XDX engine is using them as a reference point for data extraction and generation of the XML payload. At this point, we have our new template that reflects database table structure. Let's make it a little bit more complicated. The Open-XDX engine is aware of tables' foreign and primary keys, so it automatically can use it as a reference for data extraction from relational databases. So let's add one more table into our structure. Just simply drag and drop table with details into the node that represent a master table. Let's make sure that we have rules that allow us to have multiple records in the detail table. Since we are doing a lookup from the database tables, it makes sense to specify the filter that will restrict data that only matches to certain criteria. So let's switch to Parameter tab on the bottom panel and just simply drag and drop master table here. In the default field, we will add condition that will be used in the where clause of the SQL statement. The $sign represents a token. That means that this value can be dynamic and can be passed into the Open-XDX engine. Now let's test it to see how it works. So what we have to do, we have to just go to Open Data menu item and click Generate Open Data. We have to set value for the token and select database connection from the list. We'll click OK button. It will invoke Open-XDX API and our Open-XDX payload will be generated. Let's take a look on the generated file. So as you can see, the XML is reflecting our structure from the template, and it has data that has been propagated from the database. Now let's create a schema definition for our new XML exchange. We're going to use it for JAXB generation and JAXWS or JAXRS services. In order to do that, just simply navigate to File, Export template as an XSD schema. Let's give the proper name. And please make sure that use namespaces flag is set to true. So we're going to click OK button, and our new XSD file will be created on the file system. Let's open it up. So it has all this information about elements and types, relationships, plus it has all the documentation that we have. Basically all our annotations from the template are reflected in the side of this XSD document as well. At this point, we're done with Schema editor part of this tutorial. The next tutorial will demonstrate how to build Open-XDX driven web services by using Oracle JDeveloper.
So now what we're going to do is just recap what we just went through and talk about completing the Exchange design artifacts given the CAM template that we've just built with the structure, rules and the documentation in it. So conceptually, on the left hand side, we went ahead and mapped from our SQL to our XML content, stored that template in the CAM editor, and then to complete the task, in addition to running the Open-XDX and verifying that you get the data that you want and so forth, you have these additional artifacts that you need to create. And the first one, of course, is the XSD schema. And this is going to tell the form editor, PDF tool if you're using that, and the tools generally, exactly what the XML looks like that you're using in your WSDL. So that's a key artifact. And then, of course, we're able to generate the XML JSON or a fillable PDF. In our case, we're focusing in on the XML here. And then, of course, these ancillary pieces that you may want to create to help document and complete the Exchange information, model, dictionary, HTML documentation, spreadsheets, and so on. So the editor is capable of creating all these for you. We only touched on these. We have other videos which are going to which can go into more detail on that for you. And so now we have the web service built, we have the schema built. We're now ready to go into the second part of our demonstration here and talk about integrating this with the Open-XDX web service for the BPM forms using the JDeveloper. So in actually doing this web service configuration, I'm going to walk you through the various steps here first before actually showing you it working in the tooling. So the first thing is the service definition. How do we take what we've done already, import that into JDeveloper, take the BPM project that we've created from the composer, generate the JAXB classes based on the XSD schema, create the web services that we need, and then link that with the Open-XDX process and define the service definition with the WSDL. So that's a self-contained piece that we're going to show you first. And then, of course, within the project, in the same way as we did in the editor, we have to establish the database connection. So that's within the Oracle Web Logic server. Need to create the JNDI data source details, so that the Open-XDX database connection will work, and then deploy that service into WLS. So once you've got that done, then you switch to integrating the service into the actual form. So next we have to configure the data handling. So we're going to create the web service reference based on the new WSDL, define the process data objects based on the web service XSD schema, then map the BPM human task and services to the data objects. So that's from what was created in Composer as part of the workflow and the business process. You've got a human task, and you have to link that to the data object. And then once you've done that, then you can go back into the Oracle BPM Composer, import that newly updated project that you've just exported from JDeveloper, auto-generate the BPM forms for the human tasks using that payload XSD schema definition, and then of course run and verify that the operation is working how you want it. So that's what we're going to now walk you through and demonstrate, and I'm going to turn it over to Serge at this point to show you all that, and then we're going to return back here to the slides and just kind of recap that for you so you can see what it is that we've shown you. Okay, Serge, take it away.
We are continuing with our tutorial that demonstrates how to create a simple XML exchange based on SQL database tables. In this part of the tutorial, we're going to demonstrate how to rapidly build JAXB services with Open-XDX API. We are going to use Oracle JDeveloper for this particular demo. Let's start by creating a new application. We're going to use generic application. Let's give it a name. And make sure that you have an application package prefix for default packages. Let's create a project. Let's name it sample WS, and select technologies such as web services and the top link. Web services will provide us an API for JAXWS, and the top link will provide us tools for creation of JAXB. Let's make sure that everything is right and click the finish button. Now we have an empty project, and let's start filling it with components. First of all, we're going to create a JAXB content model from XSD schema. As usual, click New, select top link GPA business tier, and select JAX 2.0 content model from XML schema item. Click OK. We're going to reuse XSD files that we created in our previous tutorial. So we just need to point this wizard to the location of that file on the file system. And it's always a good idea to create a separate package for generated classes. I'm going to click OK, and JDeveloper generated classes for our XSD schema. Let's verify that everything is properly generated. We have an object factory that creates patient records, and then we have a patient records class that contains person details information and the medical records details as well. The next step would be let's prepare our Open-XDX infrastructure. In order to do so, we need to add Open-XDX libraries into our project. So we're going to open the project properties, go to libraries, and we need to add Open-XDX library. I already created this user library for the Open-XDX jar file, so we just need to select this one. We can take a look what's inside. So we have an Open-XDX jar file and the supporting jars from the Saxon. Click OK. So we're done with this step as well. And now we're going to copy a CAM template in CXF format inside our project source code. The Open-XDX API is relying on the CAM template for the data extraction. So we're going to add this template that I have exported in the CXF format from the CAM editor inside our project source folder. Let's verify if file has been properly propagated. Yes, we get this file in our project. Let's save our project. And next step would be we're going to create an Open-XDX handler class that will provide simple methods for our application to invoke Open-XDX API. The Open-XDX handler is very simple. It initiates data source objects from GNDI context, and we'll have a method for retrieving data through the Open-XDX. So let's click New Java class. Let's give it a name. Click OK. I already have content prepared for this class, so let me copy and paste. So here we go. This is our Open-XDX handler, and like I said, we have a constructor where we are initiating the context, and we're getting the context from initial context object from initial context. Sorry. And we are extracting the data source by doing this GNDI lookup by GNDI name. We are referring to our template, and we have a simple method to retrieve Open-XDX data. Inside of this method, we have a reference to Open-XDX API where we are initiating a new processor. Then we are setting up our template into the Open-XDX processor. We are setting up the data source object. Then we are extracting the raw data. And the last step, we are generating Open-XDX XML based on our template. The method accepts two parameters. It's a CXF file and the CAM tokens, CAM parameter tokens. And it will return the stream source object as a result. Now we are ready to proceed with JAXB service creation. Let's create a simple class that will utilize JAXB and Open-XDX API. As usual, click New Java class. Let's give it a name. Click OK button. I already have a content prepared for this class. Let me replace it with my content. Here we go. This is very simple class. In the constructor, it initiates Open-XDX handler. And it has one method, doPatientQuery, where you can pass a patient ID as a parameter, and as a result it will return a patient records class based on our JAXB data. So inside of this class, what we're doing, we are initiating JAXB context, then we are setting up a marshaller, we're setting up our CAM template parameters with the tokens. We're setting person ID token with the value that we're getting as a parameter, and then we're running a marshaller based on the result that we're getting from Open-XDX get Open-XDX method, and then we are returning the patient record class. The next step, we are going to create web services implementation. Simply click on the class that you would like to create web services from, and choose create web service option in the menu. We're going to use Java 2E 1.5 with JAXB annotations. Click next. Put the checkbox for adding this service endpoint interface. Click next. It will auto-generate our service endpoint interface. This is our method. Click finish, and JDeveloper automatically will create a service based on our class, and it will add annotations for the service as well. Let's take a look on our newly created interface. It's always a good idea to give a proper name for the parameters and for interface itself. Let's do this. For the web result, we set the name as patient records, and let's annotate the parameter as well. So our web service is ready for use. And at last, let's make sure that CAM templates are included into our deployment archive. In the project properties, let's go to compiler and add that .cxf file at the end of the list of file types that we're going to copy to output folder. Now we are ready to test our new web service with integrated WebLogic server. First of all, you just make sure that you already have a data source created inside of your application server, and the GNDI name for the data source matches with whatever information we have here in the parameter in the value in Open-XDX handler. In order to test our web service, we just need to click right mouse button and say test web service. It will automatically deploy your application inside of the WebLogic server, and it will open this dialog where you can get access to your web methods. So our application is getting deployed, and we got this dialog. So we just need to set the value for the patient ID, and we're going to send our SOAP message to our service. And we're getting our data back. So as you can see, this XML contains information about the person and medical records. We can take a look on the raw message itself. So as you can see, we have a SOAP envelope with body and response SOAP envelope with response information. At this point, our Open-XDX web services are ready for use, and in our next tutorial we'll cover usage of Open-XDX driven services with Oracle BPM engine. We are continuing with our tutorial that demonstrates how to create simple XML exchange based on SQL database table, and at this point we're going to demonstrate how to wire our new services with our Oracle BPM engine. First of all, let's quickly review settings in the WebLogic server side. Our application requires to have a configured data source. So for this particular application, I created CWCM demo data source that have a certain GNDI name that matches with our database, and it's connecting to the local host. Next, I would like to show you the WebLogic test client. It's a very neat tool that allows you to test your web services. So our services are deployed at CWCM demo web services, and I have two operations. one for the court case update, and second for retrieving patient information. So we can test the services simply by entering some values here and executing the service. And it will return us a response from the server. It will show the service request, service response information, and actual data that have been retrieved from the database. Next, this is our WSDL URL that we're going to set in our BPM process. As you can see, the WSDL contains all information about our services, about our query, update, port binding, and everything. So we're going to use this WSDL URL in the BPM process to wire our BPM process to our new services. Let's move to JDeveloper part. I have created a JDeveloper project with BPM process in it, and let's do the service wiring. In order to do so, we just need to open Composite.xml and insert new web service reference. Let's give it a name. And we have to insert our WSDL URL. It will automatically get information about available port. And what we would like to do is that to copy WSDL and artifacts into the project. Click OK. The new service references has been created. Now let's switch to our project. BPM process. And we have 3 service calls, and right now they marked with a red icon. It means that services are not hasn't been wired yet. So when you just open the properties for the service call, in the implementation we have to choose our service and select proper operation. In data association, we're going to wire information that we're going to pass as a parameter in the request, and we're going to wire our response to process data objects, person records. And as you can see, the person records data object is reflecting our response object. It has all information that we're getting from the services. So let's do this for this service call. This one as well, same thing, but in this particular case we're going to do the court case update. The Open-XDX allows you to do bidirectional support. It's supporting bidirectional queries, so we can not only retrieve information from the Open-XDX, but we also can publish information into the database table through the Open-XDX. So in order to do that, we created a data object that reflects our request object, and we're passing that information to corresponding service. And we really don't care about the update status, but we can get the update status information and display on the screen as well. And the last one here, I'm going to wire to the service, court case update, done. So at this point, our BPM process is going to use our Open-XDX driven web services that retrieves and publish data directly into the SQL database, and it's completely code free. You don't have to worry about your SQL statements, you don't have to worry about your update statements. What you have to do, just utilize Open-XDX API, and it will take care about all those steps for you. And as a final part, I would like to demonstrate you how to simply create BPM forms based on our web services information. I have loaded this CWCM demo project into BPM Composer. Let me open it up. So I have human task associated with my process, and in each and every human task, as you can see, I have data association and payload information. The payload information is very important. In our particular case, we are using web services types as a data payload, and when we are creating our BPM forms, we are using this information in order to display data on the screen. And in this particular case, you don't have to worry about creating all those fields. Everything has been created from this data source information that based on our web services. So you can easily just remove everything and recreate it again. Okay, actually I have to do the person details. Let me remove this one and add person details only. Here we go. Simple like that. So it automatically gets information about available fields, type of fields, and if you have repeating values, it shows repeating values as well. That concludes our demonstrations about how to create a simple web services by utilizing Open-XDX based on the SQL database.
Okay, Serge, thank you very much. And here we are back again in the slide deck now. So what we're going to do is just kind of review what Serge just did and essentially give you the cheat sheet, the quick view of each of the forms. So the first one you're looking at here is JDeveloper, where we went in, used the initial menu option, picked the JAXB to content model from the schema, and then went ahead and picked the schema that we want to import and generate those JAXB object model from that. And then once you've got that built, then you in your JDeveloper configuration of the web service, you pick that over here in the dashboard. Then you have the Java code here where you're going to wire in your actual JAXB and Open-XDX web services. We're providing this Java code. You just have to change it for the specific files and so forth that you're using. And of course configure the actual port details. And then the next step is to go into the WebLogic server and actually configure the JDBC connection and the JNDI, as you can see here on this screen. And then continue on, create the web service reference and deploy the actual services within WLS. And here's the step with the actual WSDL setup. So you're going to give it the WSDL URL that you want, and that's that. So now we're back in JDeveloper and actually attaching the services to the processes. So you're going to attach that WSDL service to the process step, as you can see here. And then move on into reviewing your process that you've imported. As you see up here, we've got the child welfare case management. This is the workflow diagram. It's come in from the composer. And now you can make sure you've got your data association details correct, from your person record to the query and the response that you're getting back. And then, of course, what we're showing here is now you're back in the Oracle BPM composer. You've imported the project back in from JDeveloper. Now you're going to create the BPM form automatically from the XSD data source using the drag and drop. That's showing you that here. And then recapping again, of course, once you've got your service wired in, you can actually run it in the composer and test it out and make sure it works how you need it to. Okay, that was the quick cheat sheet. Now we have additional resources and links to the Open-XDX and CAM editor software tools, the cameditor.org website. Information and overview of Oracle BPM if you need to get more familiar with that. And a nice Java Development Magazine article, BPM Without Barriers. Of course, this is all pre Open-XDX, so you won't see any reference to Open-XDX in it. This, what we're showing you, is in addition to what you can glean from these articles. So Open-XDX itself, we have the VerifyXML website, we have the GitHub resource. Those two are linked, so you can go in there. You can actually go to the Open-XDX section on the website, run sample services of the type that we've just showed you, go and get the source code from GitHub and explore all that from there. And then this is just showing you the CAM editor website, some statistics of all the downloads and views and so on. And we have 8 languages available now. And if you go to NIEMtrainingvideos.org, you'll find additional training resources there. Okay, thanks very much for watching this video, and hope you are able to utilize the information that we've provided you with. Thank you.